Hey, hello, good morning, good evening. I'm Nishagni, and this is Nishagni Tarot, where you receive inspired insights to create an empowered life. So, welcome to a new video and a new deck walkthrough. So, today I am going to be taking you through an amazing deck which has which has captured my heart, which has captured my attention, and which I'm sure all of you will definitely love. So, this deck, without further ado, is the Living Altar Oracle. Let's take a look. Okay, so this deck, so my relationship with this deck, or rather how I came across it, and how I sort of learned about this deck has been something. I would say sort of both a mixture of free will and fate. So this deck was put on Kickstarter at the end of 2019, and I think the Kickstarter completed sometime at the wrap up of 2019 and going into 2020. And at that time, I had just seen an Instagram photo of this deck. And at that point, I wasn't really into, tarot as much as I am today, or into my magical practice as I am today. And so I never really paid that much attention to it. And I wasn't really drawn to the imagery, I wasn't drawn to the message, I wasn't drawn to the energy of the deck. So it sort of got pushed to the background. So fast forward almost a year and a half later, and just sometime in the mid of September, sometime around my birthday, I came across another post, and on that post there was just one card from this deck featured, and the moment I saw this card, I just absolutely fell in love with this deck, and it sort of called out to my soul, and I knew that I had to have this deck immediately. And although it was pricey, and let me tell you, it is pricey, I thought it was going to be the best investment possible, and I just went for it, right? And the card, incidentally, which I happen to see has been on that post, is actually on this box as well, and it's this one, this blue color one, which is the Ancestor. So we will be going through each of the cards so you can see the real card, the real deal, and so let's get started. So the Living Altar is basically a company which you can find, or rather a small business. It's being started by, I've got these information cards over here. So this is the logo of the, I think this way. Yeah, this is the logo of the Living Altar. And I also got a bunch of stickers with this logo on it, which I've stuck, in my altar space, so that the imagery is, or rather the power of the altar and the power of the symbolism can come into my practice and infuse my decks as well. So the Living Altar is actually a small business, and it's started by two people. One is Kiki Robinson and the other is Yilva Radziszewski. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that name. I do apologize. So Kiki and Yilva are both of Romani descent, and they live in they've actually mentioned, they live currently in the occupied Duwamish land, which is called Seattle. That is in America. The place which is currently known as Seattle is actually occupied Duwamish land. So that's where Kiki and Yilva stay. And about the Living Altars, I'm just going to read it out over here so that you can sort of understand like where they come from and what they are. So at the Living Altar, we believe that the work of the witch is to disrupt and transform cultural circumstances. That of the artist is to document and synthesize the potential of these circumstances. The witch as an activist must account for, divest from, and dismantle settler colonialism, cishet normativity, white supremacy, and systemic hierarchical oppression from our altars, our art, and our magic. The Living Altar focuses our art and rituals on the radical empowerment of those who these systems violate. So it's pretty powerful. So this is one of the reasons why I actually invested in this deck, why I got this deck, is because it seeks to dismantle all of these oppressions which are present even today. So if we look at racism, so I'm from India. So in India, although it's primarily a country of brown people, we suffer from internalized racism, internalized whiteism, where we are racist towards our own people. If there is a darker skinned Indian, a lighter skinned Indian, there has been a very, very acute presence of racism against such darker skinned Indians by lighter skinned Indians. There have been issues where darker skinned people don't get the opportunity to get certain jobs. They can't get jobs in certain industries because of their dark skin. They don't get partners, such as spouses, because especially since India is one of the countries which still has arranged marriages, many darker skinned people find it very hard to find a spouse, right? So there is a lot of racism, there's a lot of oppression over there, and oppression also in the form of casteism. So India is one of the main countries where casteism is still prevalent even today, and it is a disease that is affecting the lives of millions of people. So there are a lot of these issues that are happening right now in India. And another issue that is happening right now is the denying of our culture's acceptance of queer or the queer community. So if you look at, I am a practicing Hindu, so a lot of my magical practice derives from my South Asian and my Hindu religion and my culture. And if you look at Hindu philosophy as a whole, there are a lot of instances, a lot of examples where we see queer characters, queer friendly stories, queer acceptance, and within the kingdoms, within the realm of the divine, right? But currently we have reached a sort of phase where extremely fanatical and religious and very close-minded, narrow-minded, homophobic and racist politicians seek to erase this queer-friendly history that India has, or that Hinduism has, by denying its very existence, by saying that, this is a Western concept and our myths don't support this. But in fact, because I have been studying a lot of my philosophical texts, Hindu philosophical texts, Hindu mythological texts, and I can say without the shadow of a doubt that Hinduism at its core is inclusive and accepting and diverse of people of all kinds, right? So we're going through this sort of revolution in India right now, and as a magical practitioner, as a tarot reader, and as a spiritual person, as an energy worker, so when I am donning so many hats, I believe that it is also my duty, and I also want to do it, contribute in a way to sort of dismantle all these oppressions, dismantle all these hierarchies, and that's where this deck comes in. So the Living Altar has been a stunning deck. So we're gonna look through the deck, and we're going to pull a card, we're going to read from the guidebook, and we'll just discuss a little bit about how the cards have been set up, how you may want to use this deck. And I did come across a series of videos by a couple of creators online. I mean, this deck isn't that well documented on YouTube, so I'm going to link their videos down as well, so in case you want to see them, right? So let's get started. So this deck comes in this massive box. It's a pretty huge box. It's completely full color all around, right? And you get the description of the company over here, along with a few of the images over here of the cards, right? And over here you do get some information about what this Living Altar deck is actually about. So if you want to read this, you can just pause the video and you can just read this. Right? So the box just sort of comes off in just take it off, and it doesn't have any writing inside, but it's this gorgeous red color, right? This is the guidebook. it's a pretty big book. I mean, I'm happy with it. So the guidebook, the pages are sort of like, you get in a magazine. So it's that sort of a plasticky sort of a magazine, sort of high quality paper quality that is there. So it's a book that is definitely going to last. It is not a colored guidebook. It's completely black and white. And the guidebook, so we will get to the guidebook for a little later. So then this is what the back of the box looks like. Once again, similar to the front of the box. There's not any writing on this over here. Just gonna set this aside. And this is what the cards look like. Right? Isn't this red color gilding absolutely gorgeous? So stunning, right? It's amazing. So the living altar is set up in a very different way, in the sense that the deck is actually sort of contains two parts, I would say. So it's like this, one is this and one is this. So this section it's about, I think, 66 cards. I just got it today, so I haven't really played around with it for a while. So this is just sort of like a first impressions video and to show you what the cards look like, right? So this section, this entire section is the oracle deck, wherein it's basically the oracle cards. And you can use this for divination, for your meditations, for your journaling, what have you. So these are the oracle cards. Now, here are 14 cards which are spell cards. And this is where the living altar differs from the other oracle decks that you may have seen, because both Kiki and Ylva are practicing witches. They're practicing magical souls. They are magical beings. And the living altar deck is a testament to the cycles of life, the cycles of the seasons, the wheel of the year, and the magic that flows through our veins, through each and every one of us. So these 14 cards are spell cards which contain images of actual spells that Kiki and Ylva have done. So they have taken photos of certain, so it's based on certain themes. So there are 14 themes that they are based on each of the spell card. And the spell card, for example, if one spell card is about childhood, there are different spells that Kiki and Ylva have done, and they've taken photographs of that spell. They've made a collage of it and they've pasted or printed it on this card so that the energy of that spell work can be something that we can use, that we can tap into, and we can translate into our own magical practice, into our own altar practice, right? So in that way, this is a working deck. So you can actually use these 14 spell cards in particular to do your magic. You don't have to build your own spell bottles if you don't want to, or if you don't have the resources to do so. But if you identify the crux or theme of what you want to do, then you can definitely use one of those 14 cards as the sort of anchor for your spell, and then work around it through an energetic practice, through a sigil work, or maybe even if you do have the resources or the ability or the time to go ahead and actually create a spell jar or to do a spell, then you can do that as well. So these 14 cards are essentially spell cards. Now these cards, I'm just going to start showing you each of the cards. They are not in order. So technically okay, let's just look through the guidebook so I can tell you what the cards are actually about. So this is the table of contents, right? So you have essentially, the cards are divided into 3 arcs or 3 narratives, which represent 3 different stages of life. And then we have the spell cards. So the first arc or the first narrative is the cosmic source. So we are talking about the universal energies that are at play and which affect each and every one of us, which affect our planets, which affect our constellations, which affect all the creatures from a very cosmic, from a very divine perspective. So they are the larger archetypes, the larger energies that encompass all of us, right? So these usually include elements, the 4 elements, the earth, air, fire and water. It includes the seasons. There is just summer, spring, autumn, and winter, and the different phases of the moon, the stations of the sun, and so on. So these are, the essential, the way the cosmic forces work, and which are common to all of us. Then we have the second arc, which is the life path cards, and which essentially talk of the various stages in life that all of us go through, that all of us experience. So, for example, your birth, rebirth, emergence, childhood, adolescence, young adult, middle age, old age, solitude, death, and so on. So it charts the path of the life that we are on. So first we had the cosmic forces, which were common to all of us, the energies and archetypes that affected all of us, and then we have the life path that all of us go through individually, from our birth to our death to our rebirth once again. And then finally we have the third arc, which is everyday magic, and this one is all about how we interact with the world around us. So for example, boundaries, our identity, our relationships with other creatures or other inanimate objects, what resources do we tap into, what inspires us, what makes us creative, how do we live a well-intentioned life, about how we overcome our tower moments, for transformation, for change, how we bring about new things, how we purge ourselves of things, how we express ourselves, and how we connect with our ancestors, how we connect with our communities, how do we live life essentially. So it's all about the day-to-day activities and how the energies and archetypes of the day-to-day activities manifest, and how do they play in our lives, how can we make use of these energies, how can we make use of these archetypes, and live a mindful life in order to manifest the dream that we've always wanted, or that we've always wanted to achieve, right? So that's what this deck is about. And then we have the 14 spell cards, which are standalone cards, which sort of encompass the various cards, different cards within the deck, within the oracle deck itself. So these spell cards are they are categorized in terms of the major events and milestones in our life. So I'm just going to read out the names of the spell cards over here. So we have day, we have moon, rebirth, childhood, adolescence, young adult, midlife, elderhood, death, earth, air, fire, and water. So essentially we are looking at the crux or core elements of our lives, which we can actively work with, whether in terms of we're doing magic, or we want to sort of work in a way to infuse those energies into our lives. If you want to bring in a more childlike joy, vivacity, and excitement into your life, then maybe you can work with a childhood spell card, right? So that's just something that we can that you can consider doing with this deck. Now this deck does have a couple of spreads, which is one is the spread of the moment, which is basically about how you can, or rather what is going on in your life and what major energies are playing in your life. Then we have the elemental harmonizing spread, which is all about bringing in the balance and energies of the different elements that are there. So you're basically bringing them into sync with each other. Then you have the living altar spread, which is their main spread over here. And the initiation portal spread, apparently, so this is something that they recommend that we do during important moments in our life, including when we start working with this deck. Yeah, so that's about it. So we have around 4 spreads, a bit of an introduction, and yeah, then we go into the card meanings. So when it comes to the card meanings, we have the picture of the card in black and white. We have the the correspondences of the card, the name of the card, correspondences of the card, a spell. So this spell isn't something like, for example, use rosemary, citrine, and have sandalwood incense. No, this spell doesn't talk of any particular ingredients. Instead, what it does is give you questions such as journaling prompts or themes to start working your or constructing your spell around. So they just sort of lead you to a particular direction and then just let go of your hand, right? There's no hand holding throughout the process. There's just sort of a starting point for you to learn how to work with a particular card. And then finally we have the guiding message, which is about the usual divinatory oracle message that you get with any of the cards, right? One special thing that I did notice with this deck is that when it comes to the elemental cards, there's not just one card for each of the element. For example, earth one card for earth, one card for air, one card for fire, one card for water. It doesn't do that. So instead, each of the elements is divided into 4 segments, because the belief is each element doesn't work in isolation or in solitary. Each element interacts with each other, with the other elements, in order to manifest something. So for example, if you go to a riverbed, there is the amalgamation of water and earth, right? When you talk of incense, the smoke that is produced is the result of the interaction between air and fire. So no element works in isolation, when it comes to the real life, what we're living. Instead, what actually happens right now is the elements work together, they amalgamate their powers, and that's how life is created, right? In fact, the whole creation of life itself, the creation of the planet, comes from the interaction of spirit with fire, then fire with water, water with earth, and so on. So that's how it works. So this is basically how the Living Altar deck is set up. Right, so now let's just sort of go through each of the cards and just take a look. So let's start with the spell cards first. So the spell cards don't have any meanings on them, so words on them. So I'm just going to show you the photos so you can take a look. Let's get started. So all of these contain ingredients that were used in the spells themselves. So you can see string, you can see wax, you can see thread, you can see flower petals, you can see cinnamon sticks, you can see water, you can see fire. It's super hot in India right now, and winter is supposed to be coming, but it seems like the climate has sort of turned on its head, and it feels like summer at its core right now. So this was the last spell card. Before I forget, so the card stock is amazing. It is 400 GSM. It's amazing. This is what the back looks like. This is actually very similar to, I think, the air card, if I remember it correctly. That's what the card looks like. The stock is amazing, and I don't know what the finishing is, but I've heard that it's supposed to be soft matte. I'm not really sure about my finishing, so I'm not really sure. It's supposed to be soft matte. And over here in the back, it's sort of like, it's got two multiple textures. This is sort of more sort of rubbery soft matte, whereas this is more smooth matte. So it is a little shiny. I don't know if you can see this, right? Shiny, yeah. But and it's very big. It's a humongous card, right? It's a humongous card, and I really like it because you can see all the detailing that way, because there's a lot of details, especially in the Oracle deck, which you need to sort of look through very closely in order to work with the cards. So these were the spell cards. Now let's look through the Oracle deck. So again, these are not in order, so let's just I'm just gonna get started. So there's a name over here, and then we have the imagery. And of course the elemental symbol to help you understand what element it is related to. So it's a very, very primal deck in the sense that there's just so much happening, there's just so much visual stimuli. But this is the visual stimuli that sort of helps us really tap into our, you could call it instinct, intuition, sixth sense. I just love this card. There's just so much to see, and the video doesn't do justice because I won't be able to hold it up enough for everyone to sort of look through each element. And here's the card that I fell in love with, Ancestor. Isn't this gorgeous? I just looked at this card on Instagram and I had to have this deck. I just loved it. And the one thing that you will notice is that with this deck, I don't know if you can see this because of the lighting, you will see that on the edges over here near the borders, although there are borders, the color sort of comes out and bleeds out from it, right? Each of the cards has that. Like for example, this card has it over here, and similarly with the Ancestor 2, we had it over here, right? Some cards have, for example, in the Winter card, you have it at the bottom like this. And that is not a printing mistake that's deliberately been done, because essentially, nature doesn't work well in boundaries, right? Nature is wild, life is unpredictable. And the bleeding of these paintings, the colors is indicative of nature's wildness, of how, and also of the message that nature can't be oppressed and neither can we. We won't be oppressed anymore. We're going to fight and we're going to win. I love this set of ritual and transformation cards. It's so stunning. So this is the example I was telling you about, it's of fire, earth of fire, air of fire, water of fire, things like that. That's what it means. The relationship. This was another card that really drew me to this deck. Now this is the earth element, earth of water, earth of fire, earth of air. You'll be able to figure out through this. Because see, this is the earth symbol, but then inside this there's another symbol. So that should tell you what it is about. Like for example, over here the symbol is different. And this is the core elemental, like I said. So this is just air, and this is just fire. So you have the core elemental air, for the cosmic first arc, and then we have a separation of each of the elements for the later arcs. So the surrender card is actually the first card in the deck. Essentially because, this is my hypothesis, is that you need to surrender to the universe, you need to surrender to the message of the universe, you need to surrender yourself to Mother Nature to experience their true magic in life. And only then will you be able to open up yourself to all the spiritual growth and physical growth that comes with living an aligned life with Mother Nature and the universe. This is what it looks like. And these are the moon cards now. These are just absolutely stunning. Gibbous Moon, one of my favorite cards. This deck is absolutely gorgeous, and like I said, it's extremely primal, it's extremely intuitive. There's so much to see, and every time you look at it, you're gonna feel something different, you're gonna learn something different. As your life progresses, what the card means becomes different to you as well. Look at how gorgeous this color scheme is. And I know that, you know, this aesthetic isn't usually for everyone, but I do urge you to give this deck a chance, because like I said, when I first saw this about a year and a half ago, I didn't really like it, but this year I'm just totally head over heels in love with this deck. So another set of cards that I absolutely love. Just look how brilliantly colorful this is. And there's so much to see over here in this set of cards. I think this deck is going to be amazing for your normal spell work, of course, because each of these are archetypes and energies that are present in everyone's lives. They're going to be amazing for your meditation and energetic practice. So my practice is extremely energetic based. That's why I call myself an energy worker. I'm sort of trying to expand the meaning of the word energy work, because currently energy work is something that people only ascribe to people who do crystal healing or Reiki healing, right? But I believe energy work is anything where you actively manipulate the energetic forces in the universe or in your life in order to manifest the desire that you have. For example, if I want to protect myself and my family, I will actively work with the energies around my house. So that's, for example, nature energies, elemental energies, the energy of my house itself, the energy of protective elements like salt, and sort of speak to them and ask them to lend that protection. Isn't this absolutely gorgeous? So this is again a life path card. All these are life path cards. So you can use it for energy work, you can use it for meditation, because there's so many elements in each of these cards. You can just pick one element and choose to meditate upon that. Yeah, you can work, and this is the final card of the deck. This is just super cute, right? Yeah, so this deck is really stunning. You can also use it for your journaling. You can just pick out a card, just look at it, and just start free writing. You know, how you feel and how this deck makes you feel, and what is the first thought that pops into your mind. Like for example, in this relationship card, I think this was the card that I actually worked with the first. And when I looked at it, the first thought that struck me was how we are, you know, taking the land that belongs to the animals, and while they are trying to accommodate us, we are not trying to accommodate them, right? Because there is a stag over here. I don't know if you, yeah, over here, if you saw this. And so that was my first thought. And as I work with this deck even more, I'm sure I'm going to be getting more information, more insight from it. Recently, in the Faroe Islands, so many dolphins were killed. Almost 1,400 dolphins were killed as part of the Grindadarp. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. I think it's a tradition. It's a Danish tradition, and usually they sort of, you know, hunt only about 50 dolphins or so, or whales, because that suffices the village's food needs. But this time a soup pot of 1,400 dolphins were murdered or butchered relentlessly, and the relationship card reminded me of that today, because I came across that today, and it reminded me of how fragile ecosystems are and our relationships are with other creatures. And it is only by improving our relationships with these creatures can the world survive as a whole, can we survive as a whole, can the universe survive as a whole, right? So that's something to think about. So this is a way in which you can actually work with this ginormous deck, right? So you can either use these spell cards alone for spell work itself and not as an oracle, or you could mix them up and use them together as an oracle deck. So in one of the videos that I've linked down below, the creator of the video talks of how, because like I said, there's a childhood card in the oracle deck as well and a childhood card in the spell card deck as well. So when you get the oracle deck spell card of, or oracle deck card of childhood, it talks of the subtle nuances of childhood, how you can subtly infuse the childlike spirit into your life. But if you get the spell card childhood in your reading, then it means actively taking action to reconnect with your child in you, or the childhood self that you have, right? So that is something that really appeals to me right now. Or you can even use this to make the wheel of the year. So the Astral Tarot Lady, I think that's her name, I have linked that video down below. So Astral Tarot Lady has created a video of how to create a wheel of the year with this deck. So if you do practice with the wheel of the year, if you do celebrate the Sabbats, the Esbats, then this deck is going to be amazing for you to work to put up the relevant Sabbath and Esbat cards on your altar and celebrate the various milestones in the wheel of the year. So this deck is amazing. So let's just sort of I'm gonna keep the spell cards out of this, and I'm just gonna shuffle this real quickly. It's a humongous deck, so okay, someone wants to come out, and it is Council. Okay, let's take a look at Council, because Council really wanted to come out, right? So this is what Council looks like. So let's just figure out where Council is. I wish the deck had a better numbering system, because you don't figure out where the cards are, right? So okay, just give me a second, because I am trying to find this Council. It's so hot here today, right? Oh, Council is from the suit of water. So we will be going almost to the end of this book. It's just before. Yep, here we go. Council. So, so the wheel of the year correspondences for Council are autumn, west, water, adult, midlife, abundance, generosity, sunset, disseminating moon, third quarter moon. So all of these are cards that are already present in the deck, so you can use them along, work with them if you get this Council card. The spell is, I invoke the most ancient self. I am the fire around which time dissolves. I welcome my future ancestors to dance in the sparks of past initiations. I call to the galactic center and make my inquiry a portal of truth. I am the light of a million stars. What within me refuses to be forgotten or left behind? Do I dare reclaim my seat at the Council's fire? I am humbled and seek the guidance of those who have seen what I can only dare to imagine. I must cast my pride upon these flames as a sacrifice for future lessons. And the guiding messages, what is the earth of water? So this is a water card, the element of water, but this is the interaction of earth and water. So what does the earth of water hold for you at this time? Bring the situation to the altar of Council. What wisdom is alchemizing within you? So that's what the Council card stands for. Right? So there is a lot to think about, there is a lot to do. You can use the spell prompts that they have given to actively work your magic, or you can use them as journaling prompts to discover and sort of have a conversation with your own psyche. You can meditate upon this, and there's a lot that you can do with this deck. So the Living Altar Oracle has been an amazing deck. I cannot wait to work with this deck. I received it just today, and I just could not wait to do the walkthrough for you. And I hope you enjoyed it. I love this deck. The deck is still available. I'm not sure whether this is a single time print or if there are going to be reprints. I'm not really sure about that, but I will link Living Walter's Instagram page and their website down below with the product listing, so you can go and purchase this deck if you like this deck. So once again, this deck was purchased with my own money. This has not been a sponsored post, and everything in this video is my opinion. All right, so thank you so much for watching this episode of the walkthrough of the Living Walter Oracle, and I hope your life and your weekend and this entire year and just your entire life is filled with magic and happiness and prosperity. I wish you all the very best, and I look forward to interacting with you on our next video. Bye.